Hi everyone, and welcome to our seventh meetup of this year. Welcome to Romania Power BI and Modern Excel User Group monthly meetup. We have the honor today to host one of the best speakers I know in this space, and the guy that I've learned a lot from. Even if this is your first appearance in Romania Power BI User Group, I hope it's not the last one, Gašper. For our newest member, my name is Cristian Angel, and I will be your host today. The agenda for today is straightforward, and after this short intro, we'll go through our next scheduled meetups. Then Gašper will deliver his session, a short Q&A at the end, and just before the Romania Power BI monthly raffle. We'll talk a bit more in a few minutes about it, with prizes from Enterprise DNA, which is our primary official sponsor. Some organizational stuff at the beginning. This is my usual slide. Please mute your microphone during the session. Type all your questions or comments in the chat area. Prefix them with a Q so we can spot them easier and address them to Gašper. If you have problems with internet connection, like I do now, please drop off and join again. And please be advised that the session is recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel in the following days. In regards of our next meetup, the next one will be on August 25th. It's also an online session like all the other ones. We'll have Chandip coming for the second time on Romania Power BI User Group with a session on how to use Excel to build and validate complex DAX. Then in September, we have Chris Webb with a session. It's not decided yet. And then on October, we have Matthew Roach. Together with Chris, they are part of Power BI Customer Advisory Team. And Matthew will deliver a session on building a data culture with Power BI. So looking forward to have you all in our next meetups and maybe bring some friends because there is a lot to learn.
That's a great lineup.
There's a lot to learn even in today's session and the following ones. Speaking of good sessions, you have all the recordings on YouTube. If you check the short link there with the _history, you'll see all the sessions that we had until now. Since August last year, Enterprise DNA is sponsoring each session of Romania Power BI User Group with a bundle of 3 memberships for full memberships for 1 year. In order to get one of the memberships, you have to be live in this meetup. Fill up the form that you'll see on the following slide. So either scan the QR code or go to the short link with the ROPAG 18_July 2022. Don't worry, I will put the link in the chat during the session. But fill up this short form and express your option to be in the raffle, and we'll go quickly in the end. The value that you are getting from this, it's huge. And 1 year of full access on Enterprise DNA platform, it's really, really big. A short mention I'll have in the next slides about My Data Summit, which is a conference scheduled for 5, 6, and 7th of September. And it is organized by my good friends Farah Shahik and Ilgar from Azerbaijan. My Data Summit is the world's first online conference that unites speakers talking about Microsoft various technology, focusing on Microsoft Office and Power Platform. It's a 3-day live event organized with Microsoft product group speakers, Microsoft MVPs, and community experts from different countries. This is a conference which is carefully crafted with 30 sessions that cover Microsoft Office and Power Platform topics, including Microsoft Excel, Power BI, Power Automate, Power Apps, and Power Query, Power Pivot, and DAX, Azure, data visualization, and more. And one of the presenters there is Gašper, who is here with us today. And during the session, I will provide you some special limited in time discount code for his masterclass, because he's not only presenting a session there, and we've discussed with the organizers, and you'll have a special discount code. I will put it in the chat a little bit later.
That's cool.
You didn't know about this?
No, I didn't know.
Well, I have my agreements with Faraz on this.
There you go. Cool.
Even without that specific discount code, you have a general discount code, Christian10, which is providing a 10% discount on both the ticket and any of masterclasses. So feel free to use this code if you want to register and get 10% off from the price. Let me see. Yeah, finally. So let's get back to business, to our session today. Not that much. My PC is lagging, and it's always crazy to see what's happening on the other screen.
Oh, it's already Q&A. I'm already done. Cool.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Gašper, and thanks again for accepting our invitation.
Yeah, sure, man.
For who doesn't know Gašper, he's a 6-time already Microsoft 365 apps and services MVP. Well, it's Excel MVP. He's a blogger.
Yeah, that's the way we like to call it.
Exactly. He's a blogger, a certified trainer, and a MCSA on BI reporting specialist from Slovenia, based in Ljubljana. He has a lot of experience presenting at tens of conferences, and a lot of teaching experience as a certified trainer, opening eyes for thousands of students over the years. I was actually one of his students back in 2019, I think, right? For a masterclass on data modeling.
Yeah, it was the last one. It was almost the last conference. The Slovenian was the last one, which was November, right after, the week after Bulgaria.
Yeah, this was back in November 2019 in Bulgaria Excel Days. And then I also attended the Excel Olympics, the conference that Gašper organized in Ljubljana. And hopefully we'll meet again soon in person. Gašper is doing all kind of free sessions for the community, blogging on Excel Unplugged, speaking of many user groups, and I'm really happy that he managed to come and honor our invitation. Thanks again for accepting our invitation. Please tell us a few words about you, and the stage is yours, Gašper.
Okay, just a question. Will you be coming to Bulgaria in November?
Hopefully, yes.
Then we'll see you there.
Nobody knows about it for now.
Okay.
We'll see.
So let me do this.
Yeah, let me stop sharing.
Okay, so just a reference. Can you all see my screen? You should be seeing the first slide.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, cool. So welcome to this session. This is one of my favorite sessions because it sort of bridges the gap that Power Pivot, when it came right to Excel, and that was way back in 2009. It was sort of there were two types of users that were using Power Pivot. One were the SQL guys and one were the Excel guys, right? And it was supposed to be a bridge in between. Basically, what Power Pivot was, it was SQL Server Analysis Services Tabular brought into Excel, and then later on brought into Power BI. And you know, since it was SQL servers, right? SQL users were sort of apt to it because that's the way you build OLAP cubes, and Excel users had a way to, you know, bring in millions of rows and all that. So it was kind of bringing two worlds that never really collided otherwise, but they did collide in the data modeling sense, right? Now, those people that were doing SQL, they were aware of some, you know, rules that you have to abide and all that, whereas Excel people were very freestyling, you know, because Excel allows you to. Excel has cells, you can write anything into them, and, you know, let's see what happens. So this session is sort of the, it kind of hopes to bring some keywords into focus, like the star schema and stuff like that, why those things are important, which are actually kind of, you know, database keywords, but they do make sense in the data modeling world. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a model, and I'll do that in like 10 minutes, which will be a basic model that anyone would create, right? You know, it's the kind of model that you would get anywhere, and then we're gonna build the model, and hopefully you're gonna see the difference, you're gonna feel the difference, and you're gonna see why Power Query and Power Pivot are such powerful tools, and what they enable you to do so simply if you just use them right? So that's the idea of this session, and it's really one of my favorite sessions. Now, I don't mind if you interrupt me in the middle. So if you want to, you can just unmute and, you know, speak your mind, because I probably will miss some chat in between.
I'll try to moderate.
Yeah, so you know, if you interrupt me, no problem. But if you don't understand something, just ask, right? So anyways, because Christian already said it all, so you already know all of this. The only thing that he didn't say, and I love saying this, so I'm an Excel MVP from Slovenia, the only country in the world that has the word, oh, that went all wrong. Let me go back. So the only country in the world, and it happened again, that has the word love in the name. There you go.
It was on purpose. I left it on purpose out.
No, you know what? Something weird is happening. My Zoom, it doesn't work. So let me just correct that. Let me just do this. There it is. So the only country in the world that has the word love in the name. And besides of that, Kristen already said everything. This is the conference that I last did in 2019, because we all know what happened in 2020. And this is the conference that Christian was talking about, and this is the conference. This was actually the last live conference that I know of in Excel. And this is a newsletter I do. If you're interested, sign up. And I have a YouTube channel where I dabble about Power Query and Power Pivot and Excel in general, and Power BI if I feel like it. So with all that said, let's look at the data we'll be working with. So we'll be creating data models, right? So we'll be sort of Power Pivot building, but because my Excel, I'm testing an add-in, and my Power Pivot is very, very unstable. So I'll be using Power BI for building the model, but it's the same, you know, more or less is the same. Now, Power BI does have, Power Query slightly upgraded towards Excel and Power Pivot slightly upgraded towards Excel. But it's not a problem, because the things that we'll be doing, you can do it in Excel, you can do it in Power BI, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so here's the data we have. We have two fact tables, which will be our, big tables, and we have one for actual and we have one for plan or budget or whatever you want to call it. So one that has actual data and one that has data for what we planned. And then we have dimension tables, one for product, one for geography, which is actually a customer table, but it does also provide geography of customers. Yeah, it's a nice date format. It's the way we write it in Slovenia. I don't know how you write it in Romania or wherever you guys are from. So we have the normal one, which is day, month, year, right? The way it should be. Anyways, so business unit and then salesperson. So these four are dimension tables and these two are our fact tables, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to bring this into Power BI. Otherwise, we would bring it into Power Pivot, and we're going to create a model out of this, right? And let's just do that very quickly. So what we want to do is start off with our get data from Excel. And then if everything went right, I should see it right here, right here. There it is. So this is the one we need. And we're just going to grab all of these. Now, the files, I'm going to send the link to Christian. So if you want to, later on when you have the video, you can download the files. I'm guessing he'll give you the link. And you can follow along. You can just click for yourselves. So I'm going to bring in all the tables. Now, I could also bring in all the sheets, but tables, they're the way you should work in Excel. So let's bring in all the tables. And these two are our fact tables, and these are our dimension tables. Now I'm going to just say load. So I'm not even going to do lots of transformations here. I'm just going to load it. And basically, what I'll get, and this is due to the way the tables are structured and the way the columns are named and formatted in table format. If I now go to the data model, it kind of looks like it's already done, right? If I now arrange it so that dimensions are on top, right? Because filters only trickle downwards, or water only trickles downwards. So these two are my fact tables, and these are my dimension tables. And as you can see, they're already connected. So everything is connected exactly the way it sort of should be, right? What you're seeing right now is why we love data models, why we love Power Pivot. The geography table is actually called customers. So this is the geo thing we were seeing, the region. It was actually a customers table. The table was called customers, whereas the sheet was called geo, right? So we took the name of the table, not the name of the sheet, which is why we also have products 1 over here, which was the name of the table, not the sheet. That was just answering the question of Fernando. Okay, so, the reason we love this, right, is because now if I select something from here, and then I calculate from here and here, this one can filter both of those. So I can now create analysis on both, right? That's the general idea, and that's the brilliance of it. Now, let me just do one more thing, and let me find a code for it. So I think I'll find it here. Let me see. Yep, there it is. Hopefully this will work. Let me see if it will. So if I now say I want to go here and I'm just going to add one more table, right? Because one table is missing here. And it's exactly what Fernando said. I need a calendar table, right? So I'm going to say new table, and I'm going to hope that this will work, because if it won't, I need to change all the commas into, it did work. Okay, so this is just some DAX. Doesn't matter. It's just the way of creating the calendar table that is fast. And what I also need to do is to connect my calendar table to both fact tables, right? So I have date here, I have a date here, and same here. So date, date, right? Now this is one more dimension table, right? And this is how we usually, this is how our models look after some time, right? We have many fact tables, dimension tables. Then there's also, talk of granularity where, you could have plan only on monthly basis, and then you would need to have calendar, but then you would also need to have a separate table that would go months or something, or have the dates, only the start of month in your plan and things like that. So there's many magic you can do here, but basically this is sort of what you get. You get your fact tables, you get your dimension tables, and then you do something like this. Then you say, okay, now I'm gonna start creating stuff, right? And the first thing I'm gonna do, just so we don't backtrack on it, I'm gonna take the calendar table, and I'm just gonna do, the tidying up. So this should be sorted by the month number. And then do we also have, no, everything else is okay. Now, what we should also do, to be fair, this one, we should have it as don't summarize, but it already did that because it came in as text. So we didn't want to summarize it, but usually year would be a number and you would want to summarize it. So you kind of would take that back. Okay, and now what you do is this. Let's say I want to bring in my year, and I want to bring it in as a slicer, and let's just bring it in as a drop down. Let me see if I can make this slightly bigger, and let's select a year. All right, so this is what we'll be looking at, and then we'll have a simple table, nothing special, where we'll say, I want to do everything by month. All right, so I have my months. And since I have my months, now I want to have calculations, right? And this is where, yeah, so the function was calendar auto, and I can show you this. I'll also include the file with the code if you want to, but it's calendar auto. This is the base of the calendar, which creates a date column. And then to that date column, you say add columns, and then you just keep referencing that date column, right? So here is a format. So it's a text function from Excel. It brings you text. Month number is a month function, and so on and so on. So, right? Okay, so we have our months for 2021. And now in my fact tables, and let's look at the actual fact table, right? I have 3 KPIs, just 3. Usually you would have many more. But here we have 3. We have revenue, we have cost, and we have gross profit. Those are the 3 sort of KPIs that we want to look at. Now, I'm going to start with revenue, right? I'm just going to focus on revenue just to show you this. So I'm going to say, I'm going to go all in on revenue. This whole report will be, revenue report, right? Everything about revenue. So the first thing I want is what was, total revenue, right? Actual. So let me do that. Let me go here, and I'm gonna create a new measure, and I'm gonna do something that I shouldn't do here, but I'm gonna do it just because I'm just showing you. So I'm gonna call this AC, which stands for actual. Because I have 3 KPIs, I should never call this AC. This should be just revenue, right? Because then I'm gonna have from the same table, from the actual table, I'm gonna do other stuff. But I'm gonna call this AC, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna say, what I want you to do is I want you to do a simple sum of, right? Of what? Well, I want you to take the revenue column from the actual table, right? This is as simple as it gets, right? So this is my actual, and you can see that it kind of works. It does a calculation, and if I select a different year, it calculates for a different year, right? So it works. And now that I have this, now I want to compare this to plan, right? So where do I have that? Well, that I have over here. So let me go into plan. Let me say new measure. I'm going to call this PL, and it will be, nothing shocking at this point. So it will be a sum of, and again, just the revenue, but this time from the plan table, right? That's it. So we're going with this, and this is our plan. Okay. And then another one that I would love is, because usually analysis is all about comparisons, right? Analysis by itself is nothing if I have nothing to compare it to. If I grew 5% year over year, that tells me nothing if I don't know how much the other companies that are doing the same thing grew, right? So comparisons are all we want to do. And one of the comparisons that we love to do is let's compare to previous year, right? To have that year over year. And basically, we're going to build upon this actual. And what I'm about to do is one of the reasons why we love measures, explicit measures, why we love writing measures, because then you can build upon them, right? And this one will just be a new measure. I'm going to call this PY, as it will be previous year. And this one will be a calculate. Now you can do this many ways, but I love doing it this way. So I want you to calculate the actual measure, but pretend like you're 1 year back. And you can do that by using the filter function called date add. Now it asks me where are my dates, and my dates are in the calendar table and are called in a column called date. Right, and every time it says dates, it's actually referring to where is your calendar table. And then I just say, I want you to go -1, and I want you to go -1 by year. Right, so calculate actual as if you're 1 year back, right? So I do this, and now I sort of have, right? I have actual, I have plan, I have previous year, looks good, right? But then I would also want calculate year to date, right? Now, if you have a 4-5-4 calendar, you need to create a different calendar. Things would work sort of the same. The date add would not work, but other things would, right? Okay, so I have these 3, but now I want them year to date. So what do I need to do? Well, I need to go into actual, say new measure, and then calculate actual year to date, right? And that will be sort of a calculate again. I'm going to do, again, build upon the actual measure, but this time by dates YTD. Dates YTD is, again, a filter function that if I'm in April, if my filter context says April, it's going to say, yeah, we'll extend that back to January. That's it, right? So it does year to date. Again, the only thing this one asks is where are your dates? And that is calendar date. That's it. Right? So this is my actual year to date. I can bring it in and you can notice, right, the obvious, this equals this, whereas this one is actually the sum of these two, and so on, right? So it's year to date, right? And I'm going to stop right here, but you can see that I'm only doing one KPI. I'm already 4 measures in, and I still need the plan year to date. I still need the actual, the previous year to date, right? If I want to compare the two. So that would be 6 measures, and I just did 1 KPI. So I would sort of need those times 3, but usually you have much more KPIs. And what I'm getting at here is basically if you go upon building like this, you're going to end up with a lot of measures, right? That's why people do specific measure tables, right? Where you only have all the 45 measures that you can use and stuff like that. But now what I want to show you is with the same data, and I want to calculate the same things, but I'm going to create a measure, or actually will be 3 measures that can do it all, right? They'll be able to calculate all the KPIs, monthly, year to date, or, you know, everything we want with 3 measures. And basically, well, the measures will be slightly more complex, but all the difficult work will be done in data modeling and in the ETL process, which is Power Query, when you bring the data in. So let me start again. So this one, I'll just run it down and I'll go start with the new Power BI desktop. And I'm going to connect to the same Excel workbook, only this time we will do some transformations, all right? So what I'm going to say is import from Excel. It will be the same Excel, so open. But this time, I'm still going to pull all of these, so it's the same tables. And here you can now see what you were asking before. So the geo sheet actually holds the customers table, right? So basically this one and this one, they're the same. This is the table that resides in this sheet. Okay, so these are the tables, but this time I'm going to say transform. And I'm going to transform it slightly, not, you know, to a great extent. Oh, and my Power Query just went AWOL. There it is. So here's what I want to do. I basically want to get rid of I want to bring down the number of fact tables to 1. And the reason I want to do that is to have a perfect star schema, right? Now the star schema means that you have a fact table, just the one, and then dimensions out of it, right? That is a star. As soon as you have many fact tables and dimensions with multiple dimensions and other fact tables, you know, referring them, then you have a snowflake schema, right? But we want a perfect star schema. Now you can look at it. There are plenty of videos out there, usually from SQL guys, but they will tell you the same thing. You should use, or you should strive toward, star schema, right? And now let's see how we're going to do that. Well, we have 2 fact tables. We have actual and we have plan, right? But if you look at them, you can see that as far as columns go, they're the same, right? And another thing that is interesting is, so because all the columns are the same, I can just put them one on top of the other, right? I can append them. That's Power Query talk for you. And I will append them, but there's another thing that I should be thinking about. And just to, so that you'll know that this was thought of. Once I do the append, it's very hard to know where something came from, right? So over here in the plan table, right at the end, I have a column called scenario, and it has a PL in it, whereas actual table right at the end has a column called scenario, and it has the AC in it, right? So I already have a column that will still allow me to see where the data came from once I do the append, right? So I'll do this. Now, I saw that there's quite a few thoughts about this. Yeah, and granularity is definitely one of them. And I said this before, right? If we only had plan on the monthly basis or even on the yearly basis, you could still do it, but it would take a lot of magic. Now, there's plenty of ways to do that, but over here we have the perfect scenario, right? Where they're both at the same granularity, and we can just put them one on top of the other. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the most obvious solution, where I'm going to say append queries as new. Now, the reason I'm not going to grab one of those and append the other to it is if I do this, I can still edit them individually, and the end result is a separate entity, and it will hold, right? So I'll say two tables, actual, and then I want you to put the plan right below it, right? So now I have this. It's a single table. I'll just call it sales, and it's my single fact table. The granularity of the plan data is the same as the actual data, and it's daily, right? And it's by product, not by product category or anything, and it's by customer, not by region, and it's also by salesperson. So it's a perfect scenario. But you shouldn't focus on that, because the granularity, whereas it's a difficult problem,
and you can fix it.
It's also solvable. It's very solvable. So I'm going to go sales, and then these two I don't actually need. Now, the perfect way to do this would be move to group, new group, and then you would have the staging part, right? Where you would have this one, and then both of these you would not load. So enable load goes away. And this is what we have. Now, what I could also do here, and I would sort of love to do that, is to create a calendar right in Power Query. There's lots of reasons why the calendar auto is an evil function. Now, somebody once talked about evil functions. I think it was Charles Williams. He loves to do that. And functions that are volatile and stuff like that, they are evil in the sense that they can really jam up Excel and do that. So yeah, well, data flow is Power Query, so it's the same thing. Now, calendar auto, the problem would be if you would have in your customers table, if you would have a birthday for each customer, then your calendar auto would see that, and it would go from, I don't know, 1949 or whatever, right? If you have a single column with time, then your calendar would all of a sudden go from, 1900. So calendar auto can be, let's call it volatile. But what it does is just that it doesn't work in every situation. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some M code, which looks kind of like this. It's a simple step. You can see it in probably 2 of my YouTube videos, or at least one. but it's basically, I'm just going to create a new blank query, and I'm going to paste all of this into it. And it's basically just a function. It's a function that asks me which table, which column. And I'm going to say, well, the table is sales and the column is called date. And I want you to invoke the function. And what you get is a calendar table. All right. I'm going to include this in the resources also. Right. So now I have a calendar table. Now, the reason I love doing it this way is because I have sort of a perfect, control over this. I can say, use this, don't use that, right? So I kind of like this way, and it's still here's the brilliance. This is still dynamic because it's still pulling from the sales table. When the sales table gets new dates, my calendar will get new dates, right? So it's dynamic, but it's manageable, whereas calendar will tell, right? Okay, so this is kind of the model that I'm going for, right? Let me just change this products one into products because it just doesn't look good. Okay, and now that I have this, I'm just going to go close and apply. So I'm not loading these two. This is a function, so it's not going to load also, right? But these will, right? And this is my single fact table now, and these are my dimension tables. And just so I won't be returning to this, I'm also going to do one more thing. And this one is one of the most brilliant commands in Power Query. Now, it will work brilliantly with what I'm doing, right? But it's sort of, it's a mix of, I don't want to do measures for each KPI. Why don't we just do a single column of values and then a column that says which KPI that is, right? So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to select, I can see that I need to dismiss this so my taskbar goes away. It still doesn't want to go away. That's interesting. Still doesn't want to go away. Let me see. There you go. Okay. So now I can go back here and I can do this. I can say, okay, I'm going to select all the columns except for my KPIs, right? And at this point, here's where the brilliance is. At this point, I could have 7,000 KPIs or free. It doesn't matter. I would still do it the same. I select all the columns that are not KPIs. I right click and I say this, unpivot other columns. Now, the reason I'm doing unpivot other columns is if I get a new KPI, it's still going to unpivot it, right? So unpivot other columns. And as I said, I only get two columns. One is attribute, which is basically my KPI, and one is value, right? So this is my, which KPI am I looking at? And this is the value. Now, again, this works brilliantly. And if you think about it, instead of free times the measures, we just did divided by free. I'm just doing the one measure, and then I have a selection which KPI that is, right? But having said that, if you're doing big tables, then unpivot is a very, very, very resources consuming step, right? And you should really consider if you're going to do it, because your refresh time can get quite big if you do it. Okay, so now I have this. Now I go close and apply. if I can still click close and apply. Obviously I can't. So let me do this and go apply changes here.
Unpivot is my favorite function in Power Query, and this got me.
Yeah, I mean it does so much. It's brilliant. But in a sense of data modeling, this is one part where I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, if I now show you the model, right? And this time I'm going to show it slightly differently. You can now see that this sort of, emphasis on sort of, looks like a star, right? So this is now a star schema, a single fact table, and all the rest are dimensions, right? I still need to go through the process of, this is my calendar. So if you could please take this and sort it by month number, and then take, well, I'm not going to bother with this. They're even in Slovenian, so they mean nothing to anyone, but these are weekdays in Slovenian, and I'm not going to do it by weekday, so I'm just going to do the month. Okay, and now, before I start, I'm going to do one more thing, because I'm already thinking ahead. I want my calculations, and sometimes I want to look at them monthly, but sometimes I want to look at them year to date, right? And why would I go? Because now everything I do, I sort of need to do two reports, one for monthly, one for year to date. Could I sort of have a single measure that can do both? Well, and this is where, so this technique is called disconnected slicers, because in the end you get a disconnected table, which gives you a disconnected slicer. So let me show you how you do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, I want to enter some data. So I'm going to create a table simply by input. And it's just going to have two columns, the ID and the, calculation. ID1 will be monthly, ID2 will be year to date. And I'm going to call this the calc table. And I'm going to load it into my model. Right? Now, if I look at my model right now, you see that this table is not connected to anything. And that's why you call this a disconnected table, right? Now, with this disconnected table, I can now do stuff. Let me do two things that I did before, and I'll do them just the same. So I have the year, which will be my first slicer. It will be a drop down. So I have the year, same as I did before, right? So this is my year. And then I also want to bring in another slicer, which will be my calculation, right? So this will also be a slicer. Now this one, I want to put horizontal, so it's actually buttons. There you go. And now with this, I would want, to have my calculations either monthly, either year to date. And then over here, I'm just going to do a table, same as before, by month. Right? There it is. So these are my months, and now let's calculate. Now, the first thing I want to calculate is the actual, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into sales, and I'm going to say new measure. And now this one will be, the mother of all measures, but deservedly so, right? So it will be called AC, and it will be a calculate. And then within the calculate, I'm going to put switch. The switch function, look at it, it's a brilliant one. But what I'm using switch for is I have a monthly year-to-date switch up there, right? But I have no way of knowing which is selected. So that's why I'm using switch. And the first thing I'm going to do up here where it says expression, my expression will be this. I want you to do a min of calc ID. Right? So now, if somebody selects monthly, the min of calc ID is 1. But if somebody selects year to date, the min of calc ID is 2. Now, the reason I did min is so if both are selected, I would sort of have the monthly calculated, right? If both are selected, it will calculate monthly because 1 is the minimum of both IDs. Instead of min, I could do sum, right? And then I would have 3 options, 1, 2, and 3. And 3 would be if both are selected, and I could do an error message or anything. And then this could get really wild, because if you do your disconnected table that you plan to use in Switch, and you do it wisely, where your IDs would be 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, right? And then you do a sum of, you can actually catch each and every different selection within that slicer. But I'm going to leave it min because it's the simplest as it gets. And then it goes in pairs, right? If 1 is selected, then I want you to calculate a sum of the sales table value column, right? But then if 2 is selected, then I want you to calculate, again, the same thing. So the sum of the sales table value column, but this time I want you to calculate it with dates YTD, right? Now dates YTD only needs a date column in your calendar, so you give it that. You close out this, you close out the original calculate, then you go down and you close out switch. But now we still have our calculate, and our calculate is actually something we're going to need because remember, we now just have one fact table. And if I just do a sum of the value column, I'm calculating actual and plan. So I need to say that scenario column needs to be AC, right? This is now my actual. And if I bring it in, there it is, right? Now at this point, numbers seem to be slightly offish if you remember the numbers from before, but there's a reason for that. And the reason is, remember when I said this measure can do it all? If I change this into a matrix, and I'm going to change it back later on, and I now put the KPI in columns, it does it all. It does cost, gross profit, and revenue, monthly and year to date, right? And now these numbers we remember, right? These are the numbers from before. But I'm not going to do it like this, so I'm going to turn this back into a simple table, and I will put up here the KPI as a slicer and as a dropdown, right? So now I can say, give me revenue, and it's the calculation from before. It's still a single measure, but now we can do everything. You simply say so usually when you want to catch if nothing is selected, you do if has one value, right? And if has one value lets you know if that column has one value, then a KPI is selected. But if not, then you can say, well, then I want you to calculate as if revenue was selected, right? So calculate where KPI equals revenue. That's the way you would do it. Okay, so now I have actual. And if you look at it, right? How would my plan look like? Well, basically, it would be exactly the same, but this would be PL and this would be PL. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab all of this, copy it, go to sales, say new measure, and simply paste it in, change this to PL and change this to PL. And here's my plan, right? But here's my plan that can now be monthly. It can be year to date. It can be for revenue. It can be for cost. It can be for gross profit. Right? And now I just need one more, and that will be previous year. And this one will really be simple, even though it will be able to do everything. But that's because the actual is already doing all the heavy lifting. So previous year now will really be just calculate actual that you already know how to calculate by saying date at. This is my calendar date. I want you to go -1. I want you to go -1 by year. There it is. There it is. Right? And now previous year, let me add it to the right table. And this can now be monthly. It can be year to date. Right? This is my 2021. This is my 2020. If I now go 2022, this is 2022. This is the plan. This is the previous year. It can be both. Over here, I have this for each and every KPI, right? And basically, instead of all the, ×3, ×2, times I don't know how many measures, it's all in 3 measures, right? And if I just show you how I could really utilize this in Power BI, if I wanted to, I would bring in another visual that I love to use, especially in my sales reports. Oh, there it is. So let's go.
Almighty Zebra.
Let's bring in the almighty Zebra BI, exactly. And let me just go get my license key. And I simply switch this into this. And then there it is. So the greatness of this, right? Monthly, year to date, compared to, well, these two went all wrong. So previous year is here, plan is here. Okay. So monthly, year to date, comparison by plan by every KPI. And I could even go further with this. I could remove this one and simply bring it in as small multiples. Now, it wouldn't really make that much sense here, but I could do it, right? There it is. Right? For each and every KPI, I now have monthly, year-to-date charts that are actually working on steroids because they're showing me the comparison, right? And if I just bring it back like this, right, you can see that I also got something out of this, which you wouldn't necessarily notice on the first overview, but right, if I'm calculating differences, right, even year to date, what I'm always wondering is, okay, what is the difference? So let me choose another year because previous year was not really working there. So what was the difference the previous year? And what is that difference in percentage points? And if I use the right visuals in Power BI, I already have that calculation done, right? That is 4 measures I don't need to write, right? And it's a brilliant thing. And here it is, a single pager that does everything with simple 3 measures. Okay? And basically, what this is based upon is 2 simple things. One is disconnected slicers, and the other is a star schema with the unpivot, right? It enables you to do it all so simply. Okay, this is where I need to check the questions.
There was a question regarding field parameters versus disconnected tables. What do you prefer?
Disconnected tables.
Because it's usable in Excel too?
Well, yeah, and in Excel it's even easier, right? Because it literally can be a table that you have in the same Excel, and you just add to it and you update it where you don't need to go into parameters to change them, right? So I'm sticking to disconnected tables also because you can sort of do some magic with them in a sense that I told you before, right? With the IDs and sums and mins and all that. That is the magic that I love, and gives you far more flexibility if you're doing this kind of stuff.
Have you used the Zebra BI charts in Excel with Power Pivot?
That is a great question. And the answer is not yet, wink, wink. But I would keep my ears to the ground around September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. So something's cooking.
Something's cooking. Something's definitely cooking. Okay, did I miss any more questions?
No, I don't think so.
Or if anyone has a question, just bring it up.
Yeah, let me modify the meeting options because I managed to restart my PC, but it's still very, very laggy, and I'm using the sound from my PC, and I'm working on a different screen.
Oh, I can see that everyone has mics turned off.
Yeah. Well, it should be on.
Okay, you turned them on.
It should be on
cool.
now.
Yeah, they're on now. Okay, so questions, people.
Feel free to unmute and ask.
Yeah, hi, this is Don Parrish from
Hi, Donald.
Alaska. You know, I always love watching this the normal star schema thing because it's so easy when you just have like the one fact table and the dimensions. But then when you start getting to like header detail, you know, you got a transaction line and line detail, and then maybe you have detail like discount detail per line. That's when I start getting kind of confused about, well, what's the best way to do it? Do you mash everything together? Do you have separate fact tables? I know it's kind of our, you know, that's not really.
No, it's a great question. It's a great question because sometimes, you know, basically with Unpivot, with the unpivot, I'm sort of running into the same problem, right? Because I'm just unpivoting all the KPIs, but it doesn't mean that they're all additive, right? You can add up revenue, but then you can't add up percentages of discount.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing. Now, having said that, if I was to go, do that, I would actually go for two separate unpivots. One with the additive measures, and then I would add the scenario 2 column, which would be these are additive, and then another unpivot in a different table where I would get the same 2 columns, but these would be non-additive or averages or whatever they would be, right? Then I would add those up, and then I could do a measure which would still be, look, if this says additive, then do the sum. But if it says anything else, then do this, then do this, right? Yeah. So I could still catch those if I did it wisely. But there's so many asterisks below this. I mean, even unpivot by itself, if you're pulling in millions of rows, you're not going to do an unpivot. Yeah. And then a measure that would be if
right,
case. Again, you wouldn't want to write that. And also, if you have different granularities, would you still go for a star schema, or would you rather go for a split dimension? It
depends.
It depends, exactly. And that's the most stupid question, but it's the only question that is correct. The only answer, sorry, that is correct. And people hate that answer because they say, oh, you don't know. And it simply depends.
Yeah.
Right. This is the perfect example of where everything works. But I could just bring you 3 more rows and 2 more columns and nothing would work. Right. So it's
you have to work to get to this model.
Yeah, and that's the problem I get. People take the relational database and just kind of copy it over to the model, and then that's when you can get some problems. I get these, the DB thinking versus relational database thinking versus the dimensional database thinking. But
the title of this session was wasn't the perfect data model. It was the quest for the perfect data model, because you never quite get there. There isn't a single, right? There's all these things that you can do, that you can use. And this, a star schema, initially you should use it because it's the fastest way to work, right? Everything filters a single table, not 3 tables and then interconnected and whatever. And there's so many things that speak to this, but then there's so many examples where this just doesn't work, right? So this was basically the idea of how you can optimize things sometimes, right? So that instead of, I don't even know what the calculation would be, but let's say instead of 18 measures and 3 sheets of reports, I now have a single pager with 3 measures, and it does everything.
Exactly.
Right. That's the idea here. And then, if it was this simple, then nobody would need consultants, would they?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another question from Ron, which is really good. Is there anything in this presentation that can't be done in Excel Power Query other than Zebra BI?
Oh, he didn't hear the wink wink part. Okay, so the everything that I did can be done in Excel.
That's the
Excel
magic.
Power Query and Power Pivot, right?
Exactly. So you have
because it's the combination of both. Something was done in the modeling part, something was done in the ETL. So yeah, everything that I did could easily be done in Excel. It's just that I'm
You got used to Power BI lately.
No, it's not that. It's not that. I'm testing an add-in for Excel, and my Power Pivot just doesn't like it. It keeps disappearing on me. Now, those of you that have used Power Pivot and in the early years, you know what Power Pivot disappearing means. Yeah, it doesn't happen as often now, but sometimes it did. And now it keeps doing that on me, and I just didn't want to go through all that. Oh, it disappeared on me, and let's restart and let's do this. So I just went to the safe haven of Power BI because it is stable. Not saying Excel is not stable, it's just my Excel with a certain add-in that I'm testing is not.
And you're probably on the latest channel.
Oh yeah, the latest and greatest.
Yeah,
sure.
Which is in preview. Yeah, which is in preview always, and it still has some bugs and things like this.
True. But the add-in is actually, it comes from somewhere else, though.
Yeah. Anyway, this is why I said on Twitter that everything that is done here can be done in Excel. And a lot of people don't even know that Power Query and Power Pivot and DAX are present in Excel. This is why I said it's mind-blowing because everything can be done in Excel. And this is one of the reasons why I changed my career, because I could do things like this in Excel some years ago. Well, I didn't know how to do them at the beginning, but I've learned, and I'm still learning.
Nobody is born and they know everything, right? So everyone needs to learn. It's a constant process. I need to learn every day.
Yeah.
So it's
and I think everybody in the meeting, if they are here because they want to learn more. And this is one of the reasons why I love to organize this kind of meetups with like-minded people, with guys like you with a lot of experience that can explain and can show us different possibilities. I love it.
Yeah. So, basically usually what I'm thinking is you sort of, in the end, it's all just you pick up little pieces here and there, right? And those that you like, you try out, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they behave exactly as you thought they would, and that's brilliant, and you use them onwards. But basically, Excel is great because you can do everything 7 ways, right? Yeah. And even if you wouldn't use Power Query, you can still do it manually in 3 days, So, but I think I was watching a video from Win today, because Win just put out his Power BI book. And one of the things he said stuck with me because it's so true. The biggest commodity today, and it's not even being sold so much, is time, right? And with using Power Query, with using Power Pivot, or Power BI maybe even, what you're buying yourself is time, right? Because now Power Query does the heavy lifting, so you don't need to do manual work. You just do right-click, refresh, and you bought yourself some time. Right?
True.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience? Because otherwise we will get to the raffle. Hopkins' Power BI book. Yeah, it's new. I think he released the book yesterday.
So the release was July. I don't know which July, but I think it was this week.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I love Win's videos. He's great.
Yeah.
And he has a
he's a great
site.
guy. Let me tell you, he's a great guy. When I was doing Liam and Tim Heng, I don't know if you know them, they're Excel MVPs. They do a conference in Australia. It's called Excel Summit South. And And one year we did a conference that went, I think it went Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and then Perth. And what I did is I booked my flight so I would have an extra day in Perth, because I've never been to Perth. I've been to those three before, because I did the conference the year previous, but I've never been to Perth, and I heard it was brilliant. So I booked my flights so that I would leave one day after the conference ended. And then we got to Perth, and I went to the, to the hotel, and I said, so look, could I just extend my stay for one day? And they said, no, you can't. And then I said, okay, why is that? And it turns out that on the day we left, it was the biggest rugby game ever, which was Australia versus New Zealand, which is a big thing there, right? The biggest thing there. And there was literally no hotel room that I could get in entire Perth. And Win, who is native to Perth and was also speaking at the conference, kindly took this Slovenian refugee into his home for a day, right? And that is being an MVP to me, right? They were great, and they even took us. He took us around Perth, and really great guy. That's what I'm trying to say. Oh, and there, Granny just put in the link to the book. Haven't read it yet, but if Win wrote it, must be good.
And I also pasted in the chat the discount codes that are available for 2 days only for your masterclass and the event ticket.
Cool.
At
So I
least
see
I
that I'm
managed-
doing a time intelligence in data modeling masterclass. Cool.
You should
I love
prepare.
that topic.
Yeah.
Well,
I know.
I will.
There was a question from Green about what's the chart that you used, the custom visual. Maybe we can have 2 words about it on Zebra BI.
So Zebra BI?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a company in Slovenia called Zebra BI, and they basically created 3 visuals for Power BI. One is called Zebra BI Charts, one is called Zebra BI Tables, and one is called Zebra BI Cards, right? And what they do is they're made by something that is called IBCS, which is International Business Standard for Communication, which means that, it's not all colorful, not everything is blue and orange and I don't know what. Every color counts, which, if you do lots of reporting, you already know that colors, everything colorful, that's not cool, right? And so they come with lots of experience in reporting and visuals, and they bring you visuals that are simply far supreme to anything that Power BI built-in has to offer. They are mainly, as far as I use them, they're brilliant for financial reports, right? Because even if I went, and I can show you this, if I turn this into maybe I can show you, let me see. If I just bring in the tables visual, and I turn this into a table visual, right? You can see this is a table, right? It's a table, but it does all of this.
So many things.
Right out of the box, right? And then even if I just have it as a simple table, which would be this, right? I could still say, well, this, I don't want you to show me that. I want you to invert this. So this would be a minus now. And then this, I want this to be a result, right? So imagine your P&L statements, right? And then I could even do this, and this is just far upon anything. I'm going to add a formula, and I'm going to say new month. And this one is actually December plus January plus July, right? Add. And I just have, so, and let me change something here, because the way this is sorted right now is not the way it should be. So let me do this and let me do this. There you go, right? Now, doing this in your P&L statements, this is brilliant, you know. And I love doing stuff with Zebra BI, because it just, if you ever did a P&L statement with the dimensions and all that, kudos to you, and the measures, you know. But if you can do stuff that can ease your transition, and then even in that, you know, be functional, because this is still very much functional, right? Sorry for that. Let me go here. Right, this is functional. This gives me calculations that I would need to do as separate measures, but then I couldn't show them in a chart, right? But this one does it simply. And I love that about them. And then they have another feature, which I can actually show you. Let me show you this, because it's brilliant. Let me say I'm going to enter some data. I'm going to have a date. And oh, yeah, okay. I'm just gonna do it like this. I'm gonna have a date, and then I'll have a comment. And the first date will be January 1st, 2021. And the second date will be the 23rd of May 2021. And the first comment will be la la la. And the second comment will be yesterday, all my troubles. And so on, right? I'm going to call this a comment table. And I'm going to load it. And I will need to connect it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There it is. So let me connect that to my data. Oh, yeah, that's not cool. Let me change that. So this is definitely a many-to one, but I can see it totally screwed up the. So let me go here. This is actually a date. And replace current. There you go. Close and apply. Oh, now I did it the wrong way. Let me just change that. What's happening? Oh, there it is. So this is one too many.
Dynamic comments you want to show?
Well, what did you just do? Cancel. Cancel. Okay. No, I want to show you this, because this to me is true brilliance. Now I can say I also have comments on this, right? Because I said before, a true master of reporting will create brilliant visualizations. And one piece of visualizing data is knowing how to put focus on stuff and knowing how to relay your message. And in Power BI, that can be pretty hard. Whereas this one already has a built-in comment section, right? And now everything went wrong. Let me just figure it out why. This seems okay. I think it's because of the because of what I did before.
Yeah, with the calculations.
Yeah, it's not. So let me go that over here. Or actually, let me just do this. And now 2021, this is okay. Let me go back. I have a comment. I have a date. It's connected to date. Let me just do that one more time. Delete this. Why did it not delete? Delete this. And then do date to date. Again. So it's many to one. Single go. There it is. Now let's see what happens. Okay. And there it is, right? Now this, you gotta agree, this is brilliant.
It is.
And
It is.
if I now go into my comment table and just say I'm gonna add an extra one, and it will be on December. We are doing great. Okay. Close and load. Right, and then think about it. Now, this comment table could also be filled up by Power Apps or anything, but your comments are live appearing on your data, right? If this was 2020, then I have no comments. If this is 2021, now I'm bringing focus to what I want to bring focus to. And this, you know, there's no, I mean, there are visuals that do specific one of these things, but then the others they don't do. So this to me is, this is the way I do Power BI. Simply, I use Zebra BI everywhere. Whenever there is comparisons to, you know, to do, this is what I do, because it's just the best.
There's a single point that needs to be mentioned. Only part of these options are free, and it is a paid.
True.
It is a paid visual, so you need license for it.
Yeah. I mean, you can get a free trial, but yeah, if you want to use it continuously, it's a license-based product, but that's because it's so brilliant.
Exactly.
Right, because even here on the comments, if you just focus on the comments, can you see that it's not just showing me the comments, it's actually showing me the differences also in the comments, right? That is just great. Okay, any more questions?
No more questions. Thank you very much.
More questions?
So
now we see who wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's the winner of the day? Okay.
Only 8 participants until now. Let me see if I can share the screen, because I will try to share my remote screen. So on this one, I have the microphone working. On the other one, Excel and everything else it's working. So hopefully,
okay, good luck.
Hopefully it will work. Let me see if I can share the screen first, because if I start my video, everything lags, even the sound breaks. Do you see anything from me?
Don't.
I mean,
oh, now something. Yeah, well, something was happening, but it's no longer happening. Yeah, something's happening.
Wheel of names with everyone that registered should be visible.
It's just a black screen for me, but maybe that's just me. So, oh yeah, names are visible.
Okay, finally something is working, even if slower than usual. Let me see if we have someone else. This is Power Query, just refreshing it. No, 8 participants.
Oh, these are the locations of people?
Yeah.
There's
Canada, India.
just one guy from
Romania
Romania.
participating in the raffle.
Oh.
Well, I have the entire list, even with the ones that didn't want to participate in the raffle. But
Okay.
participants in the raffle, they are mostly out of Romania, and it's pretty international.
Yeah, I can
Let's-
see that.
Let's shuffle the names.
I mean, I'm shocked by India and Vietnam. It must be like 3 a.m. or something.
Yeah,
No.
pretty late. One probably.
Yeah.
So let's click and
I'm
spin
honored.
it for the first winner. Ionuț from Romania, congratulations.
Oh,
Thank you,
that
thank you.
was
You are the first
a
winner.
single Romanian participant. There
Yeah,
you go.
and it's nothing fixed, to be honest. Nothing,
Yeah,
nothing.
because that was my idea.
Well, it's not. I've been trying for months.
This is why I'm shuffling again. Ionuț is out of the list now. And spin it again. Normally this one on my PC would have a sound. Mukesh, congrats, you're the second winner.
There you go. And you deserve it because you were up so late.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
one big prize for staying up and learning new stuff. And now shuffle it again, and let's get our third winner. Bruno from Canada. So we have winners from all around the world: Canada, Romania, Vietnam, all over the world in Romania Power BI user group. Well, thank you very much again, Gašper, for presenting.
Yeah, sure.
It was really
an
great
honor.
to have you here. Thank you everyone who attended the meeting. I'm sure that you've learned something new today. Congratulations to the winners. I will send an email after this meetup to confirm your email addresses so we can register you on Enterprise DNA. And looking forward to see you all on our next meetups. The recording will be available in a few days on our YouTube channel. And thanks again, everyone.